Hey guys, I'm here to show you how to wire the Overnight Sensations crossover. Now I'm going to go ahead and use this diagram. I'm not completely sure whose diagram this actually is, but this will be in the link at the bottom if you decide that you want to utilize or have this to print off. I personally found it very helpful. One of the reasons why most people don't get into speaker building is they are very afraid of how to wire a crossover. Now, if I just gave you this crossover diagram and said, get at it, a lot of you guys would say, what the heck is this and how do I do it? I understand it can be a very daunting task, especially if you don't know how to read this. So what we're going to do is we're going to teach you how to read this and we're going to show you how to assemble one. This particular diagram is a mirrored view, meaning that this is basically from the bottom. You're going to want to look at this underneath, and the reason why they do that is so that you know where the wires go underneath. So I have one already assembled. I have not soldered anything together, but this is it assembled. This is that same diagram. You can see you got the inductor right here. Okay, you got your other inductor. You got your resistor, you got your other resistor, your 6 ohm resistor, you got your caps, and you got your big 6.8 cap, and your cap 22. Now, all of these parts came from Parts Express. Sorry, got that off. Which you can get all these. You can get the whole kit off there. You can also get the kit from DIYsoundgroup.com if you'd like. They may use a little bit smaller 6.8 capacitor on their design. The board itself can be made out of anything you want that is non-conductive. Typically, most people use like an MDF. This is what this is. This is a 1/4 inch MDF. It's very cheap. You can get like a 2x2 sheet or 4x2 sheet for like $5 at Home Depot or Lowe's or any of your big box stores like that. You'll notice that I've done a couple things. I have actually zip tied these, and when we get done, we'll actually hot glue these so that they don't move when we do it. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's go ahead and teach you how to read this. All right, there's a couple things that you're going to want to know on the diagram. You notice there's a blue, there's a red, and then there's these little dots. And there's also this little symbol right here. Now let's teach you what each one of these symbols means, okay? First, the dot. The dot means there's a connection there. Okay, now this is saying that there's some type of connection from here to a negative terminal. The negative terminal can be anything you decide to use. It can just be speaker wire, or what a lot of people do is they use these new European block terminals, which is what this is. This has 2 European block terminals. They can be cut. They're usually bought in strips. You can buy them off of Amazon for relatively cheap, or you can get them if you still have a Radio Shack that's still in business, you can probably get them there. So you'll notice that you're going to have 5 of these, okay? These are the inputs. So we're going to start with the inputs. And you can tell it's an input because it's got your negative and positive. Your outputs are going to be labeled tweeter, woofer, and ground, okay? Because that's where the wires are going to go. So we start with this connection. That means you're going to be having something soldered there. All right, so you're going to have something soldered from here to here. So there's going to be a wire point starting here, and it's going to be connected. Now, it's going to tell you what connects at this point. See how it's red and it's big? It means there's multiple items that's going to be connected. So at the beginning of this cap, you're going to run that wire, which is connected to the capacitor. Like if you take a look underneath there, these are all the capacitor wires that came with it. Most of these are long enough to fit anywhere on the board. So you're going to run one wire from this negative to this capacitor, the 6.8 UF, one side. You can use either side of the capacitor, okay? It doesn't matter. Meaning, don't be afraid of putting this capacitor upside down, okay? You can have the Dayton showing this way, or you can flip this around and have it showing the other way. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. This is actually the capacitor we're looking at, 6.8. So even if I turn this around, it doesn't make a difference. There's no actual polarity to that, okay? So we're going to run that negative to one of the sides, the 6.8 UF, and one of the sides of the resistor. And the inductor does make a difference, because you notice that there's one center point in the inductor and one non-center. I'll show you what that looks like. Take a look at the inductor. See how there's one at the very edge? And then if I flip it over, it's hard to see. See his wire down here coming down right here? That's one in the center. I drilled a hole through it already. Actually, to show you a better idea, let me show you one that's still in a package. I'll unwrap that while we're talking. You're going to want to use that outer conductor. All three of those pieces are going to be soldered together. So you're going to run on the back of the board. You're going to find the three pieces, the inductor, which is here, which would be this wire. We're going to find the 2.8 UF, and we're going to find the 10, and we're going to connect those and solder those together. Now that's your first point of connection. You'll notice though, as this blue wire goes along, it's going to have these little kinks. So after we solder these, we're gonna run it along one more length. But if you look, it's got this weird little squiggly design, and it's got there two places, that weird squiggly line. What that means is that this is going to cross these red lines, but it's not actually going to be connected. Now, a connection in electrical terms means that you don't want these touching. Okay, now you don't want bare metal to bare metal. So if this was like a joint that was soldered bare metal, just running along the bottom, and then this red line was also bare metal and they crossed, you don't want that. That would be very bad. That would not work well, and you would do damage. So typically when you see these little squiggly lines, you're going to want to use an insulated wire. Now what I'm going to use is just standard speaker wire. You can get any color. I've got red, yellow, blue, white, black. Use any of them. And you're going to solder the tip right here onto here. And then you're going to run the rest of the insulated down across until you get to the next place it's supposed to connect. If you read, the next place it's supposed to connect is right there to the ground. So this insulated wire will go from here to the ground. And then I'm also going to run an insulated wire from these three to here, just to make sure that it doesn't connect with anything. If you read, there's also other places where these red wires, once again, are not supposed to touch. If you take a look, there's one line in particular that goes across and it says, please, I don't want any of these other wires touching it. And that's this. It goes from the capacitor 0.22 UF, and it connects to the inductor and to the capacitor 6.8. See how that red dot shows all those different connections? Remember, that red dot's important. That red dot shows where they connect, where there's multiple connections. Those three are going to connect. So we're going to run an insulated wire from here to here. And then we're going to run an insulated wire from here to here. That will make sure that when we connect the middle of the inductor to the capacitor 1.5 UF, since that will be insulated, this wire does not have to be insulated and can be sit right on top, so we can just solder the two joints together and not have to worry about it. Once again, only one of the wires that cross has to be insulated, but one of them does. And so we're going to use this one because it's the only, it crosses multiple places, and it'll just save you a lot of time. Now the only other thing that you're going to want to know on this diagram are these points. See where it's just 1 point to 1 point. That just means you take the two ends, the capacitor 2.2 UF and the resistor 6 ohm 10 watt, and you're just going to solder those two pieces together. It means there's not more than 2 points, okay? When you see the red dot, that means there's multiple. When there's just the blue dots, it means they're just being connected together. So what else that looks like, if you take a look at the resistor 10 ohm, we're going to connect, hopefully, if we have enough wire from that, we're going to connect from here underneath the board all the way to the resistor 6 ohm, and that's one connection. And then we're going to take another connection from the resistor 6 ohm to the tweeter, and that is it. And that's it. I mean, that's really that simple. That is how you read this diagram. If you have any questions, put them down below. I guess there's one other thing I'll I'll mention, I'm assuming you guys know this. If you read these, resistor 6 ohm, 10 watt, capacitor 2.2 UF, that's telling you the parts you need. If you order them from Parts Express, which is what I would do if I was building this, or DIY Sound Group, they'll send you all these parts. And these are just labeling what these are, okay? I typically get these terminals, like I said, from Amazon, Radio Shack. Lowe's sells them as well. I've never seen them at Home Depot, but I know Lowe's does sell them as well. They're a little bit more expensive at Lowe's. You'd probably want to get them on Amazon or somewhere cheaper if you could. Parts Express sells them, and they sell them very cheap. So Parts Express would be the first place to get them, especially if you're buying all of this together. I'm doing a custom build overnight sensation, so I'm using this diagram, but I didn't buy the kit because I'm not using their enclosures. But if you want to use their enclosures, go ahead and get that. But this is a simple way on how to read a diagram on how to build a crossover. If you have any questions, like I said, please leave them in the comments below, and we'll try to answer those as soon as we can. Thanks. Have a great day.